Alright, what is up, you guys? TheDVDFreak here with kind of a special video. I made a post about this earlier. One of my biggest passions in life is the unknown, the paranormal, whatever you want to call it, philosophy, however deep you want to get it. But I'm here with a very special guest right now. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, hi everyone. It's JJ, better known as JJ Sinnz.
He is a part of the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast, which I film with every Sunday, so be sure to go check that out. But we're going to tell 3 stories of our own. So 6 stories in total. So sit back, relax, grab a beer, whatever you want to do. So, yeah, I've never really told too many stories about the paranormal. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, and for me to say that is kind of big because I'm the atheist skeptic in the world. So, yeah, I mean, we have some pretty cool stories ahead. So, I'm going to let you go first. Start with your first story.
I'm excited to hear these stories. All right, my first story starts out, it was about a year ago, Labor Day weekend. So roughly a year ago, I was up here in the other room. I just recently changed rooms. My girlfriend at the time, I won't say her name, we were just hanging out, us two, late at night. And while we were talking, I forgot what we were talking about, and I felt a hand touch my shoulder. And she told me she was able to sense somebody else in the room. She saw my reaction. And I know, you know it when a hand touches your shoulder. An older lady did die in this house some years back, shortly before we did move in. She passed away from natural causes. It freaked me out. She was almost in tears. It freaked me the hell out. And on top of that, not only that, later at night as we were sleeping, she felt someone tugging at her toes. She woke up, she thought it was me, and she woke up to see me sleeping. And she woke me up. She was in tears, scared shitless, and it scared the shit out of me. I woke up, turned all the lights on, made sure there was no one in the house, made sure the doors were locked, and then it was that day I accepted that my house it's haunted. I accepted that day. I had other instances where we thought the house was haunted, but that day made me believe that it's a friendly ghost. It's nothing malevolent or malicious. It's a friendly ghost who likes to tap on shoulders and tug at my ex-girlfriend's toes. So, yeah, it was pretty scary. I felt bad for her. She was so scared. And she had slept here many a time before. But, yeah, it was a pretty wicked night. It was the Sunday before Labor Day. I remember that day very clearly. I had never been touched by anything, ever. And something touched me. Thinking about it now, I'm getting the chills.
Wow.
Yeah. Seriously.
Well, one question. How old is the house that you live in?
The house has some history. These houses were built in, I believe, the 50s or the 60s. And where I live in Chicago, it used to be an old steel mill community. And we had Wisconsin Steel by us. We had different, maybe there was about 4 or 5 steel mills around this area before I was born. And as I got older, they were just standing, but it was the skeletal remains of steel mills, and they all got knocked down. But the point is, those steel mills employed a lot of people from Poland that were coming here in we'll say the 50s and the 60s, maybe even before that. And a lot of in these houses housed a lot of the workers in those steel mills that were coming from other countries. So these are bungalows. My father explained it to me. And so yeah, this house is probably built, I'm going to guess in the 50s, sometime in the 50s and the 60s. It was remodeled right before we moved in. And we do know for a fact that someone did pass away in this home. The landlord's mother passed away.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so my first story takes place. Actually, my first and second story take place in Gettysburg, PA. To me, the most haunted place in America.
Yes.
I live less than an hour away from Gettysburg, so I go there quite often. The first story, though, my friend and I, we were at a place called Suicide Bridge. A lot of just reports have happened there. It's kind of a hot spot for a lot of, ghost hunters, whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
But I was there one night, and we were just kind of walking the bridge, and I really hadn't experienced much there. It's kind of just a place we go. It's a very creepy spot. It is. But I didn't really experience much there in, the couple of years that I've been going there. But there was one time where we were in the middle of the bridge, and my friend was to the left of me. And on my right, I heard the loudest noise I've ever heard in my entire life. It sounded like a fucking cannon, went off on the right side of me, right in my ear, to the point where I went into shock. The whole bridge vibrated. I went into complete shock, and I ran to the car because I literally thought I was shot. There's some sketchy stuff that goes on down at this bridge, which that's a story for another time. But I thought I was shot by just, somebody. That's how I felt. And I sprinted to my car, so my friend sprinted to my car too. And eventually he's like, what happened? I was like, dude, I heard the loudest noise I've ever heard in my entire life. And he's like, I heard it too, but it was from a distance.
Whoa.
He's like, I heard it right when you did, but it sounded like it was really far away. Whereas I heard it literally, it sounded like the loudest thing possible right beside me. And to this day, I can't really explain that. That was a very interesting night. Yeah, that was the only time I ever ran, because I don't fear the paranormal, I fear humanity. I
agree with you, yes.
Yeah, I don't fear what the paranormal is capable of, I fear what humanity is capable of. If you've ever seen the film The Strangers, that's the scariest fucking movie of all time.
Yes, my sister hates that movie because it's so real. It's real.
It is.
It's cool. Yes.
It is. Yep. So I thought literally someone came up and shot me. It was to the point, this is hard to explain, this is going to sound stupid, but I went into shock to the point where I could see colors. It was almost
whoa,
some kind of acid experience, and I don't do drugs. So that was probably the only out-of-body experience I've ever had. So
you legit went into shock. Wow. Yeah. If you're
that's the only thing
in the shock, yeah.
That's the only time I've ever gone into shock.
You're trembling, shaking, probably couldn't talk, I'm guessing, right? Maybe?
Well, we stayed in the car for 5 minutes, and then I got back out and tried to recreate the noise. I started jumping on the bridge, I started throwing stuff at the metal part, and I couldn't recreate this sound I heard, so I can't really explain it, but it was interesting.
It was something paranormal. Now, if I can ask you a question about that bridge, if I'm right, is that the bridge that is infamous for humans and dogs jumping off? Am I right? The suicide bridge that you're talking about?
I've never heard of animals jumping off, but I know somebody who was pushed on that bridge. They were literally thrown, from across the bridge to the other. I've never been touched or anything, but this person, they swear they were fucking, thrown. And that's really the only, personal reports I have. But I'm not sure about animals and stuff. I've definitely heard of animals jumping off other bridges, but not this one personally. But okay, I don't know.
Yeah, we know when you said suicide bridge. I I know there's lots of haunted bridges, but I know there's one in particular where humans and dogs have jumped off of, but I can't think of where that's at. That's a conversation for another time. That is a hell of a story. That's creepy. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's awesome we live so close to all these great haunted areas, so it's pretty cool. All right, you want me to tell my next story?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah? Oh, boy. The next story. Well, all right. It was my friends and I. This is circa 2000, 2001. About 16 years old. Anyways, we were going into Eggers Woods, which is on 118th Street. It's maybe about a 10-minute drive from my house. And there's a pavilion in there. It's about 50 yards when you walk in. If you walk in deep enough, there's like a bench you could sit down. And we were going to sit down in this bench to smoke a joint. The weather had just broke. It was sometime in March. It was nice out. We were tired of the winter. We wanted to get out. And there was one person that was with us I did not like. I'm not going to say his name. He was always very serious, never played around. He's a fucking dickhead, but whatever. Anyways, still don't like him to this day. We never liked him.
Fuck him.
We never liked him. That's all right. But I hate the fact that he's in the story. However, he probably saved my life because, anyways, we were walking. None of us were. We weren't high. No, none of us were under the influence. And if we were under the influence, it was just weed. You don't hallucinate off weed, all right? Yeah. We were walking. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and we saw this dark figure. It looked like a walking tree. That's all I can describe it as, is a walking tree. It was about 20 feet tall. You were able to hear it walking, and it sounded like the leaves were crunchy. It was. I remember the sound, and I remember the smell. It was just that earthy smell. And we all paused in fear. It was almost like all of us were able to read each other's minds for that split second, which it felt like it was about a minute. But I know we only stopped and paused for about a good 10 seconds, maybe. But it felt like an eternity. And I heard the gentleman that I didn't get along with, who was, again, always serious, never played around. I heard him say, "Oh my God, run." As soon as I heard Dickbag say, "Oh my God, run," before I knew it, I'm looking back at everyone. My friend, she blonde chick. It was typical of a horror movie. A blonde with, beautiful blonde girl. She winds up tripping and me thinking like, "Oh shit, can't leave a friend behind." I run and pick her up. I'm like, "Come on, let's go." We ran about a good, we'll say 50 yards back to the car. We were, "What the fuck was that?" We were yelling. My friend, she was crying. We couldn't comprehend or fathom what the hell we saw. Fast forward, I don't know, maybe 2013, 2014, I had seen something on TV about the rake, about a tall figure, and I put two and two together, and I'm convinced that's what I saw. What the hell was in the woods at that time? It looked like someone was walking around on stilts. Who the hell's walking around on stilts in all black in Eggers Grove at 11 o'clock at night? What did I see?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you have to ask yourself, like, what... The number one thing I always ask myself is, what's the rational explanation? And there's just really... Like, what's the rational explanation for that? Like,
nothing.
It's very interesting.
Long arms, long legs, no face, no color in the eyes, no face. And then yes, there was that whole thing, the Slender Man, and I know that's like a made up thing, but if you look up the rake, there's a lore of the rake, and it dates back to, I don't know when, but I know it dates back to a couple hundred years ago. So it scared the shit out of me. I never forgot it. I remember coming home and telling my mom, and she thought we took too much acid that day. And I had to tell her, like, "No, Mom, we're not on any acid. We're not on any mushrooms. We're completely sober." and she didn't know what to say. So,
I mean, that's a cool experience. It is.
Yeah, it was. It was an adrenaline rush. But I would like to know what was it? What did I see? 4 people. It was me and 2 other people saw the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to go back, and those woods aren't far from me. They're not. I can take a ride. Be there in 10 minutes. I've never gone back. I'm not gonna lie. I've never gone back during the day or during the night. I'd like to, but that might be a little frightening.
Yeah.
Well, if I had the right people thinking, what's your next story?
Okay, so you said it was like 20 feet tall. Is like what you said?
I would say, from my memory, yeah, I would say reasonable, about 13, 15 feet. Like, because you figure I've seen the Big Show in person, So,
Yeah.
This person, this thing that we had saw, it was pretty tall, man. Okay, 20 feet tall is about the size of a tree. It looked like a damn tree with its limbs. It looked like branches damn near, but it wasn't no damn logging tree. I'd say it was roughly 15 to 16 feet tall, at least, like a reasonable estimation.
Well, my thing is, like, it's one thing if only one of you saw it, but all of you experienced this.
Yes.
Like, you can't all hallucinate the same thing. So that's a cool story.
And we all, like I said, we stopped in fear, and it was almost like we were all able to read each other's minds. That was it was weird. It's hard to explain.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, my next story. This one's there's a place in Gettysburg called the Sachs Covered Bridge, where I've recorded drumming. I've recorded musket shots. I've had some cool experiences there. But one of the times my girlfriend and I went there, there was this family there. It was a woman, her husband, and her kids. And they were talking about, oh, let's go to this place. And out of respect for them, I'm not going to name the place. Because it's an interesting story, which we'll get to that. But I'm like, oh, what is this place? They're like, it's kind of our spot. I was like, okay, that's whatever then. So we're driving around, and I see this road. I'm like, oh, I want to go down there. And this is in Gettysburg. So we drive down to this spot, and there's a little parking space. There's only one parking spot. And there's a car there, so I parked behind him. And there's this creek beside it. And I've had even more fucked up experience at this spot, and that's a different story for a different video. But we park behind the car, and I see the family down by the creek. And I'm like, oh, shit. Well, all right. So they come up, because they're, like, on the road there's a little path to get down to the creek. So they come up the path. They're just like, were you throwing rocks at us? We're like, no, we were just standing here. I'm not going to throw rocks at you. I don't fuck around with this kind of stuff. So, I take this seriously. I hate the people that fake it. I hate the people that stage it on YouTube. So I'm like, I don't know. We were just standing here. And she's like, all right, well, come down. This is the spot we were talking about. Just promise us you're not going to tell anyone about this spot. We've had a lot of experiences here. I'm like, all right, I won't tell anyone. So I'll tell you what it's called. It's called the Well Bed in Gettysburg. Not many people know about it. So we go down to the side of the creek, and I'm just kind of standing there. Nothing's really happening. And all of a sudden, a fucking rock the size of my fist flies by my head. I'm saying, like, right here, man. Right here. Just fucking flies by my head into the creek. And I look up, I'm like, alright. Who's throwing rocks? Like, I was pissed off. Because the last thing I'm going to think of is it's paranormal. Like, I'm like, who the fuck is throwing rocks at me? Like, that thing would have killed me. Like,
yes, you said a big rock the size of your head or your hand?
My fist. Like, literally, just fucking just swoops by. I could hear it. And then it just splashes in the water. So I walk up the path, I'm like, who the fuck's throwing rocks? And the woman's like, it came from the field, because there's a field right behind it. I'm like, okay, that's bullshit. Like, people are throwing rocks.
Yeah.
So, after that, she's like, let's walk up the road a bit. You know, now that you're here, I want to there's a lot of paranormal stuff that happens here. And we stumbled upon these people by accident. It's not like they lured us there. It's not like they were kind of irritated that we were there because they kind of saw that as their like family paranormal spot. Like,
yeah.
And we walk up the road a little bit, and she was telling me all these stories. How they would see like lanterns in the trees. They would see all this stuff there. Like, I personally never experienced that, but we walk up the road a bit, and she starts talking to it. I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm like, here we go. She's gonna start talking. She's like, if there's anyone here, can you make yourself known? And I shit you not. We hear what sounds like at least 50 people just walking through this forest. Have you ever seen the Blair Witch Project? It's my favorite horror movie.
Oh, very, very long time ago. I saw it when it first came out. I don't remember it that much.
There's a scene in the film where you just hear sticks breaking, rocks being thrown, like people walking in the woods. It sounded like that. Right after she said, if there's anyone here, make yourselves known.
Oh, wow.
And me, because there's two types of hauntings, intelligent hauntings and residual hauntings. I personally don't believe in intelligent hauntings. And this whole experience made me question kind of everything, because she said that. She's like, if there's anyone here, make yourself known. And there's just, it sounds like people marching. And this is fucking Gettysburg we're talking about.
Yes, yeah. Wow.
And then it stops. I look over at her, I'm like, do it again. I'm like, seriously, you need to do that again. Like, I was in disbelief, because this is unlike anything I'd experienced before. Like, I'd heard, drumming, cannon fire, gunshots. I once saw at Devil's Den. I don't know if you're familiar with Devil's Den.
Never heard of Devil's Den. No?
It's one of the most famous spots in Gettysburg. Like, we saw a figure walking through the field at Devil's Den. But we had never had like an intelligent experience where you can interact with it.
Yes.
So I'm like, all right, do it again. Like, I was in disbelief. I'm like, do it again. and she was very apprehensive about it. Like, she didn't really want to do it. And she's like, all right, I'll do it. She's like, so she says again, if there's anyone here, can you make yourselves known? And what do you know? We hear what sounds like it's just branches being broken, things being thrown in the water. And it's just like, this is kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, no one, and this is like 2 a.m. I just find it hard to believe that coincidentally there'd be people hanging out there.
Yeah, 2 a.m. Wow, that makes it even more creepier. It's 2 a.m. Oh. Wow.
Yeah, and this was the same night that I thought I saw something at the bridge. I thought I saw a white figure who coincidentally, I'll tell this story too, fuck it.
Yes.
We were at the spot, and I'd looked behind us, because the bridge is about 100 yards away from the spot we were at. And there's a road in between this spot. And I see what looks like a white nun walking across the road. and then it just kind of disappears. And I'm like, all right, that's kind of fucked up. So I looked into it a little bit. This gave me chills when I saw this.
Yeah.
That bridge was used as a makeshift hospital. The nurses were dressed in like a white nun's uniform.
Oh, whoa.
If you look up a Gettysburg nurse, that is what I saw. And I saw it from probably 50 yards away because it was halfway in between this and the bridge. So
That, wow.
Yeah.
What? When you saw that, what was your reaction? Was it disbelief, shock? Was it everything? Just like
Instantly, my initial reaction is always trying to debunk it, saying, "What the hell could this be?" And there's nothing it could be. There were no cars passing. There was nothing. Like, there was no reflections. Because I want to believe. Like, I always do, but I don't want to believe it unless I have reason to believe it. I'm not going to be one of those people that just thinks everything's paranormal. I'm not.
okay.
And it's just that one, I don't know. It
You know
lasted.
what you saw, and you know what you saw. You can't deny what you saw.
Yeah. I mean, I fucking saw it. So
That's amazing. And the fact that you live close to Gettysburg makes me jealous. I told you earlier, that's one of my lists on haunted places to go to is Gettysburg.
I'll tell you what. I've been to a lot of haunted places, and a lot of them are pretty disappointing. Like I went to Eastern State Penitentiary. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I believe I have. Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. It's just like I've been to a lot of places, and like the only like consistently active place I've ever been is Gettysburg.
Gettysburg has a pretty good reputation for paranormal activity. It's up, like you said. Isn't it considered the most haunted place in America?
Yeah.
If not one of the most haunted places in the world. Am I correct? Yeah, it's.
I mean, a lot of people would put it like up there with like the Paris catacombs, which I don't really think the Paris catacombs are all that haunted. I think that's more just hallucinations. Because you're fucking underground, you're already paranoid, you're already claustrophobic. Ooh. I feel like you're gonna be already paranoid, so you're gonna be seeing stuff. I would love to go there, but I think there's more hype to it than there actually is paranormal stuff going on.
What about people that have disappeared in the catacombs? There's been people that I know not. I don't know, I wouldn't say too much, but I know a decent amount of the Paris catacombs, and there's been a lot of disappearances pertaining to those. So.
Yeah, there are, because it's literally an underground maze. Like, it's...
Yeah.
I would love to go there. I would.
Yeah, I would too. That's... From what I saw, like, on YouTube, it looks pretty creepy. Like, it's all bones. A bunch of people... What was it? It was, isn't that a graveyard, technically? The catacombs?
Well, yeah, there's millions of skeletons down there.
Yes, and it's all dead bodies, obviously. And that's where people were buried.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could naturally there's going to be some sort of negative energy. So you told me that you're skeptic, you're an atheist, whereas I'm the complete opposite. I believe in everything. I do believe in an afterlife. Sometimes, I don't know, but yeah,
sometimes,
yeah, it's like shit. But I do believe, there's something, man. You can't kill energy. That's just everybody has. Everybody does have a belief, and I respect everybody's beliefs. I'm not clowning anybody for what they believe at all, but just what I believe is just can't kill energy. And if something touched me on the shoulder that night,
Yeah.
And I guess my girl woke up. I never saw her so scared and frightened. You know, and yeah, sure, I might have seen her cry a few times, but not like that. Not in, yeah. So
That's cool.
yeah. So it was something, man. So
But yeah, go ahead and tell your last story.
ooh, okay. My last story, well, actually, it involves sleep paralysis. I had my first bout of it was my first experience with sleep paralysis. It was in March of 2003, and I was living in an apartment building on a third floor, and I if you don't know about sleep paralysis, what it is your brain wakes up before your body does. Do you know about sleep paralysis? Yes.
Yeah, I've experienced it. My girlfriend actually experienced it. I've had like really small bouts of it, but I never had like any like. It was very quick, so I never had like an out of body experience or anything like that.
You're lucky. You're yourself lucky. It's a horrible experience. Uh, anyways, I had that experience. It was my first experience, and during that experience, I had saw from peripheral vision a dark figure standing in the corner of my room with a top hat and a long trench coat. No eyes, but I was able to see like almost a face, like a shadow. It was really dark, but all I saw was a dark figure. The only thing that was pretty visible was it was a dark figure with a hat and the trench coat. And I never talked about that. I never mentioned that to anybody. I never said anything. I kept it to myself. And maybe a couple years ago, I was listening to a podcast called Beyond the Darkness with Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, and a listener emailed them a story, and that their story that Dave Schrader was reading out was just like my story,
Wow.
and yeah, it scared the shit out of me, and I wound up doing, and Dave Schrader was like, "Oh, that's Hatman. It's common." Like he knew like the name of this thing, and then sure enough, I go into that wormhole of YouTube of Hatman, and
Yeah.
yeah, they explained the lore of Hatman, and apparently Hatman comes in a time of distress, or it's almost like an omen, like something bad is going to happen, or something bad has happened, and which freaked me out even more because when I saw the Hatman and had the sleep paralysis, it was roughly 48 hours after one of my close friends decided to take his life.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, and got to keep in mind, I found this out, the lore and everything about Hatman, let's say about 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. And that really fucked with my head. Because when I saw it, yeah, that would fuck with anybody's head, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd never heard of that before this. It definitely makes me want to look into it. It's interesting.
Yeah, I saw it, and I'm not done yet. I had to talk with my mother because it was a big it was an apartment building with 3 floors. I was on the 3rd floor. My parents were living on the 1st floor at this time, and I had told my mother about it, and the look in her face looked like she saw a ghost, and she told me that she had seen the same thing in her room.
Wow.
In that apartment building, and when we lined up the time frames, it was around the same time.
Fuck.
Yeah, man, I'm not. I can't make this up. If nobody believes me, you could ask my mother. My mother isn't a liar. My mom doesn't lie. So yeah,
That's
that messed with my head a lot. That yeah, it fucked with me.
that's intriguing. Like, it's
Yeah.
one thing to experience it yourself, but then to hear it from someone you trust as well
Yes.
at the same
Yeah.
time period, that's fucked up. Like,
I know. I
that's
know.
really cool.
You can't. And on top of that, I didn't bring this up to her until about maybe 6, 7 months ago. I want to say. Maybe it might have been longer. I don't know. I have to ask her. I have a horrible memory, but
Well,
I didn't. Yeah.
it's one of those things where obviously it made an impact on her to bring it up 17 years later or whatever,
Yeah. It was
and
in '03.
for it to still be in her memory. So
Yes. The look
that's
on her face was that happened to me. I never said anything about that. I never told anyone about that. She was like, "Yes," and I'm like, "Yeah, me either." And she's like, "How the hell would you?" I'm not a mind reader. My mom isn't a mind reader. Yeah, and yeah, I'm convinced there might have been maybe some documentary attached to that apartment building. I don't know, but it's the apartment building I grew up in.
wow.
Yeah.
That's a cool ass story. I'm gonna look into that.
Your stories are cool too, man. Your stories, I might have nightmares tonight,
Oh,
man.
don't worry, I saved the best for last.
Oh, I can't wait. I
This
can.
is the worst, not the worst, but this is the only thing that's ever happened to me that I have absolutely no skeptical explanation about. Like, this is fucked. Okay? So, okay. Are you finished your story?
Yes, I'm finished. Just yeah. If anyone
Okay.
out there has a same thing that happened to them, I'd like to know your story.
Yeah,
That's
down in the comments. Down in the
yeah.
comments, let us know your stories. I love this shit. Don't, like, but anyway. So, back in, like, 2016, a friend and I, we went to a place called Jericho Covered Bridge. It's in Maryland. This is by far the creepiest place I've ever been. When you pull up to it, it's like one of those. It looks like a barn house, but it's a bridge. It's like that red, has the little triangular roof.
Yeah, that's cool.
There were slaves that were hung there,
Oof.
and that is a fact. And subsequently, people would commit suicide there. People would just hang themselves because it was a pretty tall bridge that you would drive through. It's like Beetlejuice. You ever see Beetlejuice where they drive through the bridge? It looks like that. Like,
Yeah. Oh, oh wow.
so we went to the bridge, and that night we didn't experience anything. Now, a side note: the second night, or the second time we went there, it was me and my friend, a separate friend. This is probably like a year later. We heard parlor music there for some reason.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was interesting, and we actually heard it. Like, because a lot of the times, if you record it, you don't hear it. Whereas this time, I just heard it. Like, but anyway, the first time we didn't experience shit at the bridge. So this is in Maryland, and it's about an hour away from where I live. I think it's like 54 or 55 minutes away to be exact. Trust me, I've gone back looking, but we'll get to that.
Live close to all these amazing places. I'm sorry.
Yeah, look up Jericho Covered Bridge. It's a very interesting spot. I want to go back there very soon. But we left the bridge, kind of disappointed because nothing really happened. But it was midnight. After you leave the bridge, there's this four-way. It's basically like a highway four-way. There's a 7-Eleven, there's a Rite Aid. So we stop at the 7-Eleven to get gas. And I had already routed home at that point. So it said my GPS, and it was one of those like block GPSs. Like one of those ones you get from like Best Buy, which is where I
Yeah,
bought it from.
this is
Yep.
a while ago, I'm guessing. A couple
Yep.
of years ago.
Yeah, like one
Okay.
of those old school GPS systems.
A Magellan? Was it a Magellan? My sister had one. That was a Magellan.
I don't know what it was. Fuji? I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, something. It was a good GPS. I still have it, unfortunately. But it routed us home. So I remember the time. It said 1:17 p.m. or a.m. Sorry, a.m.
Yeah.
And so we stop and get gas. And my friend, he's a fucking car person, man. He locks his car. That car was his true love. Trust me. So he locks the car. My GPS is in the passenger seat. And it was routed to my house. We go into the 7-Eleven. And I wanted a super big gulp. Because I don't have too many 7-Elevens around me. So I'm like, dude, I'm going to capitalize on this and get a super big gulp.
Go for it. Yeah.
And the selection machine was broken, so the manager was actually fixing it as we walked in. So we were kind of bullshitting with the manager for like 15 minutes while he was fixing it, and just kind of bullshitting, like I said. So I got my super big gulp.
Awesome.
And we get back to the car, and this is fucked. This is the only thing. This is the strangest thing that's ever happened in my entire life. I get back in the passenger seat. I pick my GPS up. The ETA went from 1:17, which is the last time I saw it, to like 12:15 a.m.
What the hell?
It gets worse. So the GPS had a different route on it. One that obviously, because we were like an hour, 15 minutes away from my house. Because I live in PA. This was in Maryland. So I'm like, okay. So he's like, oh, just reroute it. I'm like, no. I want to see where the fuck it's taking us. Let's drive to where it's taking us. Because it's only like 5 minutes away at this point. So we start driving to where this new route is taking us. We turn left into a neighborhood. We start driving down the neighborhood. It keeps going, keeps leading us. Eventually, do you know what a cul-de-sac is?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. It's like a cul-de-sac, but it's a dirt road at the very end of this neighborhood.
Okay.
We stop at the dirt road. It's telling us to go down this dirt road, and that was our new destination.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, and it was like a wooded area, too. It went from a neighborhood to a fucking wooded area. Okay? And I'm just like, so we stopped the car. He's like, do we really go down here? And I'm like, it was only like a few hundred feet away from our new destination. And like I said, it was a wooded area, so you kind of looked in the woods, you could see a light. Like a barn house or something like that. And on the GPS, it had like it was a dead end once you got down to that dirt road a few hundred feet. And we just kind of sat there like, do we really want to do this?
Yeah.
And we decided eventually to just turn around and go back. And my thinking was, this GPS saves every single destination. I will come back during the day, because I'm the kind of person, I need to know where the fuck that was taking us. So we turn around, we go back through the neighborhood, I route us home, and like halfway home, I look at our history, and that destination didn't exist.
What?
Yeah, I took a picture.
What?
I took a picture of the road we were on, but that's on my old phone, so I'd have to check my old phone. It's a very, very old phone. It's like a flip phone at this point. But that destination doesn't exist.
Okay, when you took the picture of that street, did that picture come out clear?
Yes, it did, but I got rid of that. I got an iPhone after that. This is like a little keyboard phone, so I don't know where the keyboard phone is to this day. If I could find it, I could probably recover the street name. But yeah, that to me,
What?
I had
What?
I had every single destination saved. You route 5 minutes down the road, it's gonna save it.
Yes.
So that was
Wow.
so intriguing to me. So like 2 years later, on two separate occasions, I went looking for this neighborhood. And it wasn't that far. I can tell you exactly where this neighborhood was from this 7-Eleven.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, you turn right at the light, keep going about a mile, turn left. It's a really fancy neighborhood. And then the longer you go, kind of the shittier it gets. And then eventually you got to this dirt road that leads into the woods. I went looking for this neighborhood twice. To this day, I can't find it. I spent 2 hours driving around looking for this stupid neighborhood. I could not find it. I'm going back. I am. But
What the hell? You slipped into an alternate dimension. That's what that sounds like to me. And I know people are thinking, probably listeners probably think I'm off my rocker.
well,
If that's possible, I believe in that. You can slip into alternate dimensions, man. It's possible.
I'm big into quantum physics.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are ultimate dimensions.
Yes.
At the end of the day, there are.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. That's the only thing that's ever happened to me that I have absolutely no explanation for. Like, not even an inkling. The fact that it didn't exist after I got a different route, because that GPS saved everything. Like, I don't know. I still have the GPS. I'll look through it, and it didn't exist.
That is insane. Sounds to me made of. Did you ever think that? Like maybe you and your friend just slipped to a different dimension? Did that ever cross your mind?
I thought of it because the door was locked. That wouldn't have rerouted by itself. Like something that GPS rerouted. It did.
For some, yeah, and it rerouted on its own. There was something messing with that GPS. Either that or you just something led you into an alternate dimension, I think. And
All right, so that is our 6 stories, 3 stories each. I have plenty more stories. I don't know about you, but
I have maybe 3 or 4 stories I'm thinking about that I can remember. That's about it. I'm not gonna make anything up. I'm not gonna,
yeah.
But I told you one. Remember with me and my friends in the yard. Remember?
Yep.
I told you
Yep.
that, but that we won't touch on that one.
I think that's my favorite one you've told me, but
Really? Oh, really? Okay.
I think
Well,
that one's the creepiest to me. But
oh, yeah, that's creepy.
if you guys want to see a part 2, let us know. But yeah, if you want to plug anything, go ahead.
Not really. Just well, honestly, for all you paranormal lovers out there, if you are looking for a good podcast to listen to Beyond the Darkness podcast. It's an amazing, anybody who loves paranormal, like DVD Freak and I think you'll love that podcast. That's like honestly, and if you want to follow me on what is it, the social medias. At JJ Sinnz, it's double JSINNZ. That's about it. Um, yeah. Thank you for having me on DVD Freak. This was awesome. This was great to talk paranormal stories. This was great. I had fun.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to see a part 2, definitely let us know. We will do it. Thanks for coming on the show here. For now, this has been the DVD Freak. Peace out.